I'm kidding. It was written by a guy named, somebody got it, somebody's awake. It was written by a guy named Solomon. And the way that Solomon wrote these particular verses is really interesting. And we don't know if it's a true story or if it's a parable or kind of just an allegory or something that maybe happened in his past. But basically, Solomon's standing at a window. And he's looking down at the street and he sees this guy and he's walking around and he realizes that he knows the outcome of this guy's journey. But the guy that's on the street doesn't know the journey. Now it's, so we're going to take a look at this tonight. We're going to look at chapter 7, starting in verse 6. And maybe this has happened to you before. Have you ever seen a friend or watched one of your friends kind of making choices, and you're standing there going, I know how this is going to end. Have you ever done that? You're just like, I know the path. That's what Solomon's doing right here. He's sitting up in this window, looking down the street, going, I know how this is going to end. And so that's what happens. Chapter 7, verse 6 starts off like this. It says, at the window of my house, I looked out through the lattice. I saw among the simple, and I noticed among the young men, a youth who lacked judgment. He was walking down the street near her corner, walking along in the direction of her house. At twilight, as the day was fading, as the dark of night set in. Okay, now, I've been to Bible school. I'm not sure I would call myself a Bible scholar, but I think I can anticipate where the story's going. Just in a couple of... Anybody else kind of get an inkling of where the story might be going? Okay, just one of you. And maybe maybe you've probably never read the story before, but you never know. So here's this kid walking down the street, sun's going down, and he's heading toward this woman's house. Okay? And in the back of his mind, the soundtrack is playing, Party Like a Rock Star. And he's going down... I wish I could sing it, because then I would, but... In his mind, he's going towards this thing, and this is going to be the greatest thing. And so meanwhile, up at the window, though, Solomon's looking down, and he's got the soundtrack of a horror movie playing in his mind, because he sees what's going on, and he sees the contrast between what the kid is experiencing and what he thinks he's experiencing. And as the older and wiser man that Solomon is, he sees this contrast, and he knows what's going on. And so the young guy thinks he's about to have an exciting event. And the wise man says, no, it's not an event. And get this, it's not an event. He says, it's a path. It's a path that has a destination. And this destination is a predictable destination. So the young man thinks, hey, this is going to be good. And Solomon's going, man, you are walking down a path right now. So the story continues. Verse 10. Then out came a woman to meet him, dressed like a prostitute and with crafty intent. She is loud and defiant. Her feet never stay at home. Now in the street, now in the squares, at every corner she lurks. Hold on a second. Yeah. So she took a hold of him and she kissed him. And with a brazen face, she said, I have fellowship offerings at home. Today I fulfilled my vows. So I came out to meet you. I looked for you and I found you. So basically what she's saying, it says she's dressed like a prostitute, but she's not a prostitute. In fact, it says she has plenty of money. I'm not after your money. But I don't know if you caught it, but she says kind of this really odd thing. She says, today I fulfilled my vows. What does that mean? And it probably doesn't mean anything to you, because we don't really have anything in our culture that kind of works in the same way. But in Solomon's time period, what she was saying is she said, I've been to the temple and I got everything squared away with God. I took my big bucket of sin and I dumped it out on the altar, and God has forgiven me for all of my sins of the past. So now I have an empty bucket and I want to fill it with you. Oh. So she's like, I got a clean slate with God. I'm ready to fill this thing back up again. Let's go. Let's have a good night. And isn't that the greatest insult to God? Okay, God, you forgave me of all of these sins. All right, now I'm just going to go fill this bucket back up again. But don't we do that sometimes? We go to God and we ask for forgiveness for our sins, turn around, and what do? Same thing, right? Maybe it's just me. what she's saying is like, well, God, you know what? I got the whole system figured out. I know how it works. And so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do this. I'm squared away with God. And I'm going to go fill up my bucket with you. So here's what happens. She says, so I came out to meet you. I looked for you and have found you. So what is the word that she says 3 times there? You. Who doesn't want to feel special? I want to feel special. You don't want to feel special? You want to feel, I want to be somebody's number one. And that's kind of what she's going on here. Everybody wants to be somebody's number one. And she says, I came out to meet not just anybody, but I came out to meet you. And I looked for you. And I found you. And so he's going, I can't wait to tell all my friends that this is happening to me. I'm walking down the street and all of a sudden this woman comes out and she came out and she was looking for me, and the volume on the soundtrack starts to go up, And so it goes on and it continues in verse 16 through 18. It says this, and she says, I have covered my bed with colored linens from Egypt. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Cinnamon, that's odd. And she said, come, let's drink deep of love till morning. Let's enjoy ourselves with love. Oh, man. And he's thinking, am I dreaming? Oh, my gosh. And she continues on and she says, my husband is not at home. He's going on a long journey. He took his purse filled with money, and he won't be home until a full moon. With persuasive words, she led him astray. She seduced him with her smooth talk. All at once he followed her like an ox going to the slaughter, like a deer stepping into a noose till an arrow pierces his liver, like a bird darting into a snare, little knowing that it will cost him his life. That's some strong language, isn't it? This guy is following this woman thinking, man, I'm a celebrity. I'm like a rock star. This woman is throwing herself at me. My dreams are coming true. But the older, wiser man watching from the window, he says, I watched him like an ox going to the slaughter. And Solomon goes on, in case you didn't get what he meant by the ox to the slaughter, he goes on and he says, this is like a deer stepping into a noose until an arrow pierces its liver. Okay, because we didn't get the first mental picture. So let's get the second mental picture. And basically he says, you know what? This guy is like a deer who found this wonderful place to sleep. So it goes to settle into it. And just as it goes in to settle into this place to sleep, a noose goes around it. And suddenly the trap is around its foot. And it yanks and yanks. And all of a sudden it realizes, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. And it yanks and yanks and it can't get away. And the trap tightens and tightens. And then suddenly from the peripheral vision, the deer looks and it sees the hunter and the arrow. And the hunter raises its arrow and bye-bye Bambi. All of a sudden the deer is full of arrows and it breathes its last. Is that graphic? That's what he's talking about. And listen, and honestly, if there's still any doubt left in your mind as to what he's saying, or if that's not clear enough, he gives a third example. And he says, no, he's like a bird darting into a snare, little knowing that it will cost him his life. And you're probably thinking, kind of just like this guy. Now wait a minute. You sound just like my dad. You sound just like my mom. I'm raining on this guy. Solomon is raining on this guy's parade. He's just walking out to have a good night, right? Isn't that true? And it's just a day, right? It's just a day. And Solomon knows. Anybody ever read the book of Ecclesiastes? Solomon basically went out and he tried everything under the sun. And he basically said, I have pleasure. It's just a chasing after the wind, or all these things that he tried. He did everything. And he basically said meaningless. And so Solomon, he'd been around the block. He's a wise man. And so he says, it's just a date. And Solomon says, no, it's a path. It's just an event, right? That's what the young man says. And Solomon says, no, it's a path. It's a path. See, in your